Do something about your dad's immigration practices, you feckless.
Her father, President Donald Trump, pounced on TBS for not doing enough to condemn B, tweeting, quote, "Why aren't they firing no-talent Samantha Bee for the horrible language used on her low-ratings show?"
You can do anything.
Whatever you want.
Grab him by the pussy.
A total double standard.
Blood coming out of her wherever.
Disgusting pig, right?
Oh shoot, you're right. It is never okay to say grab him by the see you next Tuesday, but it's only okay to say grab him by the pussy, right? Just when I thought I couldn't stomach any more irony this week, here comes Donnie with a plate full of dessert. Yesterday, MAGA lost its mind calling for Samantha Bee to be fired for using crude language, equating vulgarity to racism. Because comparing a black woman to an ape is the same as using a word that in Scotland, Australia, and most English-speaking countries apart from the US, is used in every context imaginable, from an insult to a friendly greeting.
No leaves here till we find out what did it.
But I'm just playing. Still, full disclosure, I have actually fallen victim to the taboo of its use in American culture after seeing how here it is often used as a very sexist term, like this. So I do try and stay away from it, and I'm not here to condone what Samantha Bee said. But what I am here to do is bask in the unabashed hypocrisy of Trump supporters who turned up en masse wearing shirts like this, making excuses for the man they worship, saying things like this.
Grab him by the pussy. I did try and her. She was married. I moved on her like a bitch.
And playing the morality card now. So my message to those whining about a double standard is, number one, vulgar language is not the same as racist language. You should know you voted for a man who has a long-standing history of vulgar language.
He's a sleeping son of a bitch.
But wait, he's also used racist language as well.
They're bringing drugs. They're bringing crime. They're rapists.
I guess you guys just don't have any ground to stand on, do you? This really is the Twilight Zone. What's next? Kim Kardashian discussing prison reform? Oh yeah, that happened, so I guess it is. Trump built his brand on a soapbox of misogynistic vulgarity, and it didn't seem to bother his followers one bit. But now they're outraged at vulgarity, all because they want to make excuses for racists. Listen, I think what she said was crude, but I didn't pledge my allegiance to a guy who bragged about committing sexual assault by grabbing what that word stands for. So please spare me your hollow sense of morality. It's pathetic. And listen, if you want Samantha Bee fired for her vulgar language, how about we start from the top and work our way down? All in favour?
So at this point, President Trump has made it very clear. He fired the director of the FBI, at least partially due to unhappiness with the Bureau's investigation into his campaign's possible collusion with Russia, which is both shocking and yet completely unsurprising. There is really nothing Trump could do to genuinely shock me right now. If you said he fired Comey because he's investigating Russia, I'd believe you. If you said he did it because Comey is 6'8" and Trump feels like a tiny little man standing next to him, I would believe you. If you said he fired Comey, walked into the Oval Office, spread peanut butter on his genitals, brought in 35 squirrels and yelled, "Buckle up, Daddy's brought dinner," I'd say, sure, yeah, sure, why not? That sounds like something the President of the United States would do. That's the world we live in now. This week, even by current White House standards, was a mess. Such a mess that we don't even have time to get into Mueller's investigation heating up, or Trump flip-flopping on gun reform, or the president's ongoing spat with his attorney general, except to mention this amazing detail.
The Washington Post reported the president has referred to Sessions as the short-sighted elderly cartoon character, Mr. Magoo.
Okay, so first, leave it to Trump to mock Sessions as a doddering old man, even though Trump is, and this is true, 6 months older than him. And look, calling him Mr. Magoo isn't just mean, it's lazy. If you want to hurt Sessions, try. Use your imagination. Call him Confederate Smurf, or a casting director's second choice for an incontinence ad, or the result of a one-night stand between Strom Thurmond and a golden raisin. And as Iran's foreign minister points out, this decision may severely limit the ability of Trump, or indeed any future presidents, to make deals from now on.
Nobody else would trust any U.S. administration to engage in any long-term negotiation, because the length of any commitment, the duration of any commitment from now on with any U.S. administration would be the reminder of the term of that president.
And that is a huge problem. Countries need to know that America will honour its agreements, because if they don't, that's going to be an issue no matter who that next president is, whether it's President Warren or President Kaine or, let's be honest, more likely President Donald Jr., followed by President Eric, followed by President Jared and Ivanka. There is no reason to expect that that won't happen. But with Trump, we are familiar enough with his speech patterns that you get the basic gist of what he's trying to say. The real damage isn't in how he says things, but from three key techniques that he uses to insulate himself from criticism and consequence. And if we are not extremely careful, all three could have serious impacts that far outlast his presidency. And let's start with the first one. Delegitimizing the media. Now, Trump has been attacking the press since he declared his candidacy, and in a broader sense, he's been waging war on the very concept of truth ever since he first turned to his mom and said, "Dada," and she said, "No, I'm Mama," and he said, "Fake news," and shit his pants.
If you watch the video of it, he's wearing a blue blazer, and he stands in the part of the room that is as far from Trump as it is physically possible to be, and also against blue drapes that are the same color as his...
He chose that spot?
He chose that spot because it was, you know, like almost like a chameleon, you know, camouflaged against the wall.
Come on, Comey! If you're 6'8", you don't hide by blending into a curtain. You wear a brown suit, you paste a few leaves to your hand and head, and you hope to be mistaken for a tree. That's what you do. But the fact is, after the President of the United States implied that good people were marching with Nazis, the overwhelming majority of Republicans opted not to condemn him. By our count, out of 292 Republican members of Congress, only around 54 could be bothered to unequivocally condemn Trump by name, and that is less than 20%. And the problem with not mentioning him is that that suggests that he is somehow not a key part of the problem here. So, in the words of the poets Beyoncé and the other ones, say his name, go right on to Fox News, say, Donald, I condemn you if you ain't running game. So, and look, that clearly wasn't the greatest piece of communication from Stephen Miller, so naturally the White House is now considering him for the communications director job, taking over from the dearly departed Mooch. And that would be a lot of responsibility for Stephen Miller, a man who is, and this may be the most shocking thing you learned tonight, 31 years old. He is 31 human years old. He's the same age as the Olsen twin. That's right, I said twin. There's only one of them in that photo. She's tricking your eyes by moving very quickly. How is she doing that in a still photograph? I don't know that yet, but I'm close. I'm really close. But we are now at a point where the president is so busy hurling destabilising conspiracy theories around, we can't even pause to enjoy the fact he misspelled the word tap. And his evidence for suggesting President Obama has committed a crime seems pretty thin.
Because the president cited no proof, it is not clear tonight whether he based his allegations on a top-secret White House briefing or whether it came from reading an article on the conservative Breitbart website posted Friday that detailed speculation from a conspiracy-loving talk show host, Mark Levin.
Okay. I think we can now officially declare that Trump has a worse media diet than the son of Sam Killer. And he got all his news from a talking dog who told him to murder. The president seems to change his mind based on any information that is new to him, which seems to be almost any information. And that is genuinely worrying. We have a leader operating on a learner's permit, and we were reminded just this week of what a president has at his disposal.
We learned a short time ago, for the first time in combat, the U.S. military dropped a 21,000-pound bomb in eastern Afghanistan. Inside the Air Force, inside the military, it quite seriously is referred to as the mother of all bombs.
Okay, now there is obviously a lot to unpack there, but let's just take a minute and appreciate the fact that we finally reached a point where mothers can be bombs too. Hashtag mom bombs, hashtag feminism. The problem is, there is now enough excitement around the very word blockchain that it's become a magnet for investment. Reuters found that existing companies that merely added the word blockchain to their name saw their stock price, on average, increase more than threefold. And one of them was particularly dumb.
Long Island Iced Tea renamed themselves Long Blockchain, and guess what happened? Yeah, their stock tripled. Wow. I'm just going to say it. To people who watch markets, this seems so stupid it's not even worth reporting.
Yeah, well, I don't care how stupid it is, it clearly works. That is why from now on, this show will be called Last Bit Tonight with Blockchainiver. Triple the ratings! Triple! Take that to the bank! So, now, he also became a partner in a law firm, and over the years, his firms represented clients such as a tobacco company, a private prison company, Bank of America, News Corp, who owned Fox News, and Purdue Pharma, the company that got in trouble for supercharging the opioid crisis. Basically, the kind of companies whose logos you'd expect to see on a NASCAR driven by a homicidal grizzly bear. And then, in 2007, Giuliani launched what was supposed to be his destiny, a campaign for president, which was catastrophically bad. He talked non-stop about 9/11, with some supporters even holding a $9.11 per person fundraiser, all of which triggered this memorable line from then-candidate Joe Biden during a debate. And I would say that was Renzi's most humiliating defeat, but that honour really has to go to his actual appearance in the 90s on Italy's Wheel of Fortune.
Vorrei dare la soluzione.
Vorrei vedere l'Antartide.
Montagne di ghiaccio e un mare di navi.
Di navi? Un mare di navi. Ma che cosa c'entra? Beh, certo nell'Antartide vanno le navi. Boom! Boom!
Look, it is not good when the host is joining in. Hey, I know my only job on this show is to move things along, but the people have spoken. Boo! Boo to you! Boo! Fancy, high-end residential facilities. But there are oversight problems throughout this system because in many states, the barrier to opening a rehab can be dangerously low. For example, in Idaho, as long as you are not operating a residential program for adolescents, you don't need a license at all. In California, as long as you take private pay clients, anyone can start an outpatient rehab centre. And in Florida, if you want to open a sober home, a group home where people stay, often while they receive outpatient treatment, there is nothing in state law to stop you. Technically, O.J. Simpson could open one right now, which would obviously be called the Juice Cleanse, and there would be nothing standing in his way.
For a single $30.
But the truth is, whether you have a lawyer or not, your odds of success to a frightening degree may be dictated by where you are.
In San Francisco, immigrants are deported in 36% of cases. In Charlotte, the number jumps to 84%. In New York City, only 24% of cases result in deportation. In Atlanta, the rate is almost 90%.
And look, while the merits of every case are different, that is an alarming disparity between courts. Normally, the only thing that should vary that much by region is the rate of Jeff Dunham fans per capita. And regardless of where you are, in either case, that number should never be as high as 90%. But while Hoosiers may not believe in discrimination, Mike Pence clearly does. And yet, interestingly, one specific allegation he's pushed back on concerns whether or not he supported gay conversion therapy, a question that frankly didn't come out of nowhere.
When Mike Pence ran for Congress in Indiana in the 1990s, his campaign agenda included this: resources should be directed toward those institutions which provide assistance to those seeking to change their sexual behavior. According to the vice president's spokesperson, Mr. Pence did not and does not support gay conversion therapy.
Okay. Argues that this would be a huge benefit to America's workers.
We will have a one-time tax on overseas profits, which will bring back trillions of dollars that are offshore to be invested here in the United States to purchase capital and to create jobs.
Now, I know it was hard to pay attention to what he was saying because you were just automatically undressing the guy with your eyes, and you do it whenever he opens his mouth. Am I right? I'm definitely right. The guy's a California 10. He's a smoke show. Some of Chavez's programs could have been sustainable if he pursued a sound economic policy and run a tight ship. But not only did he stop saving oil revenues in a rainy day fund, he also oversaw a government that Transparency International found to be the most corrupt country in Latin America. And remember, Latin America has Colombia in it. A country where the only campaign finance law is, please report all bribes consisting of more than 10 kilos of cocaine. About Iran getting everything they wanted. You should know that Iranian hardliners were furious, arguing that they had given up way too much. Iran's lead negotiator was this guy, Javad Zarif, and some chilling cell phone footage emerged of him being confronted by a member of the Iranian parliament. And just listen to what was said to him. Ouch. If ISIS comes to our country, you will be the first to take the blow. That is both scary and, honestly, not really consistent with how ISIS operates. They generally don't come to a country and say, OK, nobody dies until we find that first guy. Nobody kills anyone until that first guy takes the first blow. We do this in order, or we don't do it at all. We're ISIS. Let's not come off like crazy people. And as for the ambassadors that Trump has appointed, some of them are frankly not great. When Trump appointed Pete Hoekstra ambassador to the Netherlands, they were a little upset over there, as this interview shows.
Speaking of threat, at one point you mentioned in a debate that there are no-go zones in the Netherlands and that cars and politicians are being set on fire in the Netherlands.
I didn't say that. That is actually an incorrect statement. Yeah, we would call it fake news.
OK, I didn't say that. So he's given himself some wiggle room there, as long as he didn't say exactly what the reporter just claimed about no-go zones and politicians being set on fire. He's technically correct. The only thing in the whole world that would make him not correct is if, say, video of him saying that cars and politicians are being burned and that, yes, there are no-go zones in the Netherlands.
This woman, who we aren't identifying, speaks candidly about the difficult decision she had to make after becoming pregnant after a rape.
I didn't want the baby. It was a lot on my soul.
Eventually, she decided to seek the services of the Hartford GYN. She initially went for counseling, and she can remember how the clinic's neighbor, Hartford Women's Health, tried to offer unsolicited counsel as well.
They was trying to tug me over there, and I was like, you know, like, you're making me feel bad.
Now, clearly, that's absolutely horrible, and incidents like that were so routine that the abortion clinic in question, in an attempt to keep its clients from going to the wrong place, painted the ramp outside their door bright yellow, like the Wizard of Oz. Which is actually appropriate, because that movie, too, involves a young woman getting stopped several times by idiots bothering her with their own fucking issues as she just tries to get where she needs to fucking go. And because let me show you what can happen when guardianship goes wrong. Take the case of Rudy and Rennie North. They were living together happily in Las Vegas when one day there was a knock on their door. And I'll let Rudy take it from here.
So I opened the door, and they said that they were officers of the court.
Rudy says the officers gave the couple 3 options. 1,
we call the police. 2, we have you go to a psychiatric ward.
Choice 3, an assisted living facility.
Well, that is 3 terrible options there. It's like playing fuck, marry, kill with the chipmunks. None of them. None of that from any of them. I'll kill myself. I'm taking the easy way out. People have been sent to prison on the basis of bite mark testimony by experts like Dr. Michael West.
The science of bite marks analysis is very accurate.
When it comes to bite marks, West considers himself the maestro. He's found bite marks on a decomposed body submerged in a swamp, on a corpse that had been buried for more than a year. He's even used a bite mark taken out of a bologna sandwich to get a conviction.
Now, that sounds impressive, matching a killer's teeth to a bite mark in a bologna sandwich, although you should know that the defendant in that case got a new trial after an autopsy report found that the murder victim had actually eaten a small amount of bologna consistent with the amounts bitten off the sandwich. So that sandwich was irrelevant to the case. In fact, you could even argue that it was actually Dr. West who was full of, say it with me, shit. But what is most important to keep in mind here regarding these revelations is the CIA, with some narrow exceptions, is barred from spying domestically. And unlike the Snowden leaks, there is nothing in these documents so far showing illegal surveillance of Americans, which is not to say there wasn't interesting stuff in there. For instance, Weeping Angel was just the beginning of the CIA's stupid code names.
A range of CIA programs with code names like After Midnight and Brutal Kangaroo, all now in the hands of terrorists and foreign targets.
It's not just After Midnight and Brutal Kangaroo, though. Other programmes were called Crunchy Lime Skies, Elder Piggy, Angerquake and McNugget, which are also, interestingly, the names of a cappella groups at Dartmouth. You should really hear Crunchy Lime Sky's rendition of Raw. It is fierce. The truth here is, though, never mind leaving the EU. It is going to be really hard for the UK to keep itself together. This vote has divided the British public. The BBC even chose to illustrate this division among British citizens with a not entirely dignified visual aid.
So how does our jury feel about triggering Article 50? We gave them emoji paddles. Happy, unhappy, or worried and confused? Please vote now. 4 happy, 3 worried, 1 unhappy. Our jury, and indeed Britain, is deeply divided on its reaction to the triggering of Article 50.
Now, I know that looks stupid, but honestly, British people are so emotionally repressed. Emojis are actually the best way to get a coherent sentiment out of us. It's pretty much that or baking competitions. Let this Victorian sponge cake say what I never can. I'm collapsing inside. Due to everything that you've seen so far, Republicans in both the House and the Senate have roundly condemned Moore and his views, and have even gone so far as to, I'm obviously kidding, he just entered into a fundraising agreement with the RNC, and multiple Republican senators are actively fundraising on his behalf. And if you're wondering why they would do that, I'll let Texas Senator John Cornyn explain.
Have you seen any of these comments when he said that homosexual conduct should be illegal? Do you agree with that?
I don't have to agree with somebody to support them over the Democratic nominee. So this is I support the nominee of my party.
But that kind of blind loyalty means there is nobody you would not support. If the Republican Party nominated a swarm of smallpox-infected bees, presumably John Cornyn would say, look, we disagree on a lot of things, but Senator All Those Bees is a reliable vote on tax cuts. I support the nominee of my party. But here's the thing. I would be very careful relying on those politicians to hold out. Just this morning, Rand Paul suggested he might vote for the bill if they needed him, and Ron Johnson said he wasn't a no, he was just a not yes yet, which isn't so much a courageous stance as it is not a cowardly stance yet. And that Paterno line would have been the craziest thing Scaramucci had said this week, until this.
White House Communications Director Anthony Scaramucci unloaded on Chief of Staff Reince Priebus, calling him an expletive, paranoid schizophrenic, a paranoiac.
And this was the most disgusting thing he said. I'm not Steve Bannon. I'm not going to blank my own blank.
Suck my own cock. Scaramucci said, I'm not Steve Bannon. I'm not trying to suck my own cock. That's what he said to a reporter on the record. There is just no point in anyone being coy about this anymore. Has been paying out settlements for alleged harassment for years, and the details are pretty disturbing here, with the victims claiming things like verbal abuse, lewd comments, unwanted advances, and phone calls in which it sounded as if Mr. O'Reilly was masturbating. And I hate to ask this, but what does that sound like? Does it sound like a dog's jowls flapping when it sticks its head out of the window of a moving car? Or someone frantically stirring a bowl of cake batter? Or was it a more subtle tap, 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 like a mouse giving a round of applause? I mean, either way, it is horrible. Now, Trump has argued that Manafort was just with the campaign for a very short period of time. But he held top positions within it for 5 months, during which time he not only organised the convention, he also spoke on the campaign's behalf, with decidedly mixed results.
So to be clear, Mr. Trump has no financial relationships with any Russian oligarchs.
That's what he said. That's what I said. That's obviously what our position is.
Well, there is nothing inherently suspicious about that response at all, except for the sweatiness, the stumbling, and the fact you couldn't even hold eye contact with the camera. And sure enough, later that day, Trump seemed to be walking back his decision, saying Congress now has 6 months to legalise DACA, and if they didn't, he would revisit this issue. So he's all over the place. Dreamers have to go, but maybe they can come back, or maybe they don't have to go at all, and in the meantime, 800,000 people's lives are in the balance. And when asked on Air Force One about these mixed signals, he was still maddeningly vague about anything even resembling a plan.
Chuck and Nancy would like to see something happen, and so do I. And I said, if we can get something to happen, we're going to sign it, and we're going to make it. We're going to make a lot of happy people.
Okay, listen, because this is important. Anytime Trump says he's going to make people happy or that you're going to be happy in the future, that means he has got nothing and is trying to end the conversation. And look, there is no evidence for Trump's claims. There is no discernible motivation for the British government to be part of this. Just the word of a mid-transition werewolf with questionable views on 9/11. And yet, none of that seems to matter to Trump, and I could tell you why, but I think I'll let Fareed Zakaria do it for me.
I think the president is somewhat indifferent to things that are true or false. He has spent his whole life bullshitting. He has succeeded by bullshitting. He has gotten the presidency by bullshitting. It's very hard to tell somebody at that point that bullshit doesn't work, because look at the results, right?
Yeah. Donald Trump is a bullshit artist. And I know Trump might want to refute that. But to be fair, someone on TV did say it, and I am repeating it, so therefore it must be true. When the Buffalo News asked him if he knew that it would cut funding for a program providing insurance to over 600,000 low and middle income people in New York State, including over 19,000 people in 2 counties that he represents parts of, he indicated that he didn't and said, "Explain that to me." And, okay, I can explain that to you right now. This bill could cause many of your constituents to get thrown into an individual marketplace they cannot afford, and when they realise that, they are going to be furious with you. Essentially, you fucked up. In fact, here is the amount that you fucked up shown graphically. Here is you fucking up shown in a scatter plot, and here is a Precious Moments figurine explaining exactly what you just did. Have I explained this clearly enough? Maybe ask your staff to read what she's holding and tell you what it means.